Hi again, Greg Bell, the News Tribune, Seahawks Insider, the backyard edition again. I realized on my way home it's been a few days since I spoke to you on camera about this team. What did we learn today? Seahawks escaping in the final minute with a 12-10 win over Miami in the opener. One, we learned Russell Wilson can play hurt. He's never missed a play in his NFL career because of injury, this being his fifth season. And today he got an ankle kick, a pretty good one. Ndamukong Suh cut inside right tackle Gary Gilliam, got to the quarterback, kind of leg whipped around and got Wilson's right ankle, the back of his right ankle in the third quarter. Wilson actually had to get helped up by the referee on the play. He stayed in the game though, and then after the series was over, the fastest change of or tape job I've seen trainers do on a player in any sport. 3 plays the Seahawks defense limited Miami before they had to punt again. And I likened it to Guido in the movie Cars changing Lightning McQueen's tires in the final race. That's how quick the trainer worked to get Wilson's ankles taped. He taped both ankles, so he had these big black bulbous tape on for the rest of the final quarter and a half. He stayed in the game, but he was severely limited, I thought. Couldn't get away from the rush, couldn't run outside, very reluctant to move away from pressure. Threw strictly from the pocket in the final quarter and a half, though he did take off on a scramble on the final drive of the game, in which the Seahawks converted 2 fourth downs. It was telling after the game that Pete Carroll, about where we go from here on Wilson's injury, all he would say is we'll see, and that indeed they're going to have to check it out and do further tests. Wilson said it'd be a lot of ice, a little bit of ice, prayer, and a lot of treatment, but there is a chance this week that Russell Wilson, for the first time as a Seahawk, may miss some practice days because of injury. Right at this point, I don't think he's going to miss the Rams game, but ankles are tricky things, as you may know. Adrenaline can get you through a game, and then that thing swells up or tightens up or any structural damage. That's the kind of test the Seahawks will be doing with him. We also learned the defense is going to carry this team again, especially early in the season while the offensive line and the offense get settled. Miami had 118 yards through 3 quarters. They really weren't doing anything. They had a field goal until 5 minutes left in the game when out of nowhere they got this drive of 86 yards and a couple busted zone coverages that got Jarvis Landry free down the sideline for a big catch. Arian Foster had a catch and run again to get him into position from Ryan Tannehill's 2-yard quarterback draw, and then all of a sudden with 3 minutes left in the game, the Seahawks are behind for the first time. Then came Wilson and the 2 fourth down conversions, one on a run by Christine Michael, and then a completion to Doug Baldwin across the middle that got him in position to Wilson to throw to Baldwin with 31 seconds left for the win. The offensive line still unsettled, as we knew it would be, and the story all off-season, all preseason, all the training camp. And Bradley Sowell, I thought, did pretty well, although he was called for holding twice. Jermaine Ifedi, of course, did not start because of the high ankle sprain, so that meant Jamarcus Webb, the former backup right tackle, played right guard, and I thought acquitted himself pretty well. No penalties, there were no sacks, and there were very few times against the run that Ndamukong Suh got the better of Webb. Mark Lewinsky's biggest misstep was a literal one when he backed up. Was going to be a handoff play to the opposite side to Thomas Rawls in the fourth quarter. Lewinsky did stepped on Wilson's already injured ankle. Wilson then tried to chuck the ball to Rawls to make the handoff a mini pitch. It went off Rawls' hands for a fumble that Miami recovered. But because Cassius Marsh blocked the field goal attempt, that turnover didn't result in points for the Dolphins. So the offensive line is still unsettled. It's still, they're working on it. And the defense is going to have to carry this team, I think, for a couple more weeks, including next week at Los Angeles, especially if Russell Wilson's limited at all. We also learned that Thomas Rawls is not all the way back. He only had 32 yards on 12 carries today. Christine Michael is going to be the lead back, or at least 1 and 1A here for a while, as Rawls works his way back from that broken ankle. We learned that Jimmy Graham's still very limited, as we thought he might be. It's just an accomplishment. He was back on the field today. 13 snaps I had him for unofficially. 6 of those, he had only 6 snaps until the final drive. So in that 2-minute drive, he was on the field for 7 plays, and that was the bulk of his activity. He had his first catch of the year down to the 16-yard line for the Dolphins there in the final couple minutes to set up the winning score. Pete Carroll marveled about how impressed he was that Graham was even on the field after that torn patellar tendon last November 29th. And in fact, in the locker room after the game, Carroll went up to and hugged Graham. They had an emotional moment there, and they talked. It looked like they were whispering. The coach was whispering in Graham's ear in the locker room. It's September. It's week 1. There are 15 more games, and I don't think the Seahawks fans that are probably panicking or at least alarmed by how this game went should be too overly concerned yet. The fact is they're 1-0, the Seahawks are. Arizona lost tonight in the last second against New England, and the Rams and 49ers play tomorrow night, so at the very moment the Seahawks are the only 1-0 team in the NFC West. As I said, the Seahawks at the Rams on Sunday at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Pete Carroll's return there. Carroll will talk tomorrow afternoon about the status, foremost, of his quarterback and his ankle. Thanks for watching. I'll be in Renton tomorrow. I'll join you then.